everybody. Welcome back to Diva Dads. How are y'all doing?
Hey, hey,
Hi.
hey.
So, cheers to the week. Another week in the books.
Yay.
Whataburger. Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, you got the Australian beer today.
Australian.
Dana with the accent work already.
Yeah, I've
I
been drinking
know.
some whiskey already. So,
It's like you know what we're going to talk about.
oh my goodness. No, great to see everyone again. How is everyone doing?
I'm doing good. I spent most of the day at the theater. I got to see Debbie. Our paths finally crossed.
Nice.
And then I don't know if you guys all know, but the barn got a kitten. And so I went over and got kitten time.
Well, was
Nice.
it Weston that got the kitten, or was it the barn?
It's Weston. It's Weston, because David's actually allergic to cats, but what are you going to do? Speaking of, hello. How are the rest of you?
Oh, doing good. Just crazy with the storms here in Bryan and College Station. Tons of calls today from clients, but other than that, doing great. So,
Good.
yeah.
I spent the day raking up all the leaves that were knocked out of the trees at my property, and I'm beat, man. And I have already had a roofer come by and said that my roof is totaled. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But it's fine. It's just money.
Well, with these storms, one of our dear friends, Haley Zvodny, she pinged me yesterday in the middle of it all saying, "Oh my God, I don't have a window. The hail took out my bedroom window."
Oh no.
And then
wow.
Is it too early for bourbon? Well, considering she had ballet rehearsal last night for choreo for Tuck, she was like, maybe I'll hold off. So,
yeah, I had rum in my Dr. Pepper before choreo, before ballet. Luckily, Shadanian took it easy on us, or at least on the guys.
yeah.
I think the girls' stuff is pretty hard, but the guys just kind of stand there. So that's good.
I can't wait to see it.
Awesome.
I can't wait to see it.
Awesome.
Well, there's not a whole lot going on with Broadway right now because things are still shut down. I know that their union started putting out guidelines for what it would take for them to finally go back on stage. And the more guidelines that go out there, the longer this date is in the future. But we have some exciting theater company news.
We do. So when we were filming episode 2, this was happening at the same time. So it was just kind of this maelstrom of we missed out because it was happening at the same time. But one of our very own, Bo Cochran, was actually nominated by the Dallas Summer Musicals as the best male lead performer or whatever, and he won. Yeah, he won. And this is no small feat, folks. Like I was looking at the list of participating schools. There's like almost 70 schools, and some of those schools put on multiple performances because they put on like a junior varsity one and a varsity one, so everybody's included in that. This is the 9th annual one. If they Bo would have been eligible for going to be a recipient for a potential Jimmy Award, which is a national award. They unfortunately canceled those proceedings this year, but still, like, super huge accomplishment. If you guys missed out, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, theater's such like lightning in a bottle, like it just happens, and if you miss it, and then it's just kind of gone. It's like those chalk paintings that people put on the sidewalks or whatever. Rain comes and it's just gone. So it's just super important that you guys go out and see it. I was super blessed to be able to go and see his performance of Footloose. And even though we had lots of TTC kiddos in that performance, I've got to say, like, Bo he was phenomenal. And then with our show that he was in, Matilda, I mean, he had this little role where he was just supposed to be a lump on a couch, but every time he was on stage, he totally stole the scene. Like, it was amazing.
Absolutely.
So, that kid's got a little something. He got a little something.
He's so special. And you mentioned the Jimmy Awards, and that the Jimmy Awards is a huge deal. And people that are, showcased in the Jimmy Awards go on to huge Broadway careers. And it's so sad that this has been canceled this year. Like the girl who won best, female maybe last year or maybe the year before at the Jimmy Awards, is the new Regina George in Mean Girls on Broadway. People that do the Jimmy Awards get showcased and seen by a lot of people and go on to do great things. And there's actually a theater company connection. Adam Wiggins, who is a graduate of Sam Houston State, he was one of our music directors for a couple of years. He's the music director of the Jimmy Awards.
Oh, wow.
He's responsible for coordinating all this music and all these musicians with these high school kids. And because it was canceled, Adam is one of these our unemployed, performers in New York. And it's a huge portion of just what he does in the year just because of this whole thing is gone. Crazy. It's crazy. I did let Adam know that it was a theater company dude that won Best Actor. He was really excited about it.
We have that clip if we want to take a peek at it.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
And here to help us with awarding this honor is Sydney James Harper.
Hey there, DSM High School Musical Theater Awards peeps. This is Sydney James Harcourt from the Broadway production of Hamilton, and I just wanted to send you a shout out for all the incredible work you did this year. And the award for Best Actor goes to Bo Cochran for Footloose A&M Consolidated High School. Congratulations, Bo.
That is so amazing.
Thank you to everyone who made this possible. Thank you, boosters, Kat, Ramos, and Weston. Thank you, Lauren, for getting us involved in DSM and for being an amazing support in my life. Thank you to my biggest support, my friends and family, and I guess my parents and brothers. I guess they're my biggest support or whatever, I don't know. And thank you to DSM for giving me the opportunity to do this and for celebrating an art form we love so much. So thank you.
That's amazing.
So exciting.
So
amazing.
awesome.
Congratulations, fine sir.
So cute. Oh, speaking of sir, titles. We learned something very interesting about Dana this week.
Yep.
Dana, do you want to tell us?
Oh my gosh. So there's this castle that's being renovated in Scotland right now, and their pasture grounds, parade grounds, they're giving up 1 square foot of their for sale, and my wife loves me and knows that's part of my past my ancestry, and she bought me 1 square foot of this pasture land in Scotland, which if you own land in Scotland, apparently you are a laird of that land and are afforded the title of Lord. So I am Lord Dana Martin right now.
That's got to be a point, guys. I'm sorry.
It's at least a couple, because this is right on track with, you guys aren't familiar, but Countess Luann de Lesseps from the New York Housewives. She's a countess, but what does that mean? What does this mean? Do we have to call you Lord Martin?
Well, I do know that it's my 1 square foot. So if I want to plant a Texas flag, which someone mentioned I should do, on my 1 square foot, I can do that.
Oh my God.
Nice. Oh,
It could happen.
gracious.
I can't.
So here's what I want to do. We were talking about how we want to get to know you guys a little bit more and talk about your day jobs, but we've got a lot on our docket today. So how about, who wants to tell us a little bit more? And we'll just kind of space you guys out across the episodes. Who wants to tell us what you do outside of Diva Dads?
I think Lord Dana should
I can start.
Lord Martin?
My title
Lord
affords
Martin.
me some pleasures and some rights therein too.
Oh, Lord.
My day job, I work for a satellite internet company, and I lead a support team. I supervise them, and they do in-flight Wi-Fi. So if you travel on a specific airline and you're having problems signing into Wi-Fi or paying for Wi-Fi, you would chat with one of the agents on the ground. Wait, how's that possible? If I can't, it's a different separate system for the chat, so you can always talk to the team on the ground. And one of our theater company daughters, or the daughter that really kicked it all off, actually works for us. Miss Reiley Mae McMahon works for us as well, and she does a fantastic job. So that's what I do by day. Yeah, it's very fun.
Dana, in December when I took a flight to New York, I flew Delta first class, by the way, just to let you know.
Oh
And,
my gosh.
I was just wondering if maybe I could get a refund because it didn't work for half the flight. So, okay, well.
Not ours.
All right, Rodney, what are you drinking this week?
Cocktail this week. All right, hold on. So,
I need some theme music for cocktails with Rodney.
Oh, we can make that happen.
All right, so how?
Oh, the best.
I don't know. I don't feel like you guys can see me very well.
Oh, I can see.
I see a puppy.
Yes, we've got CAMEO, TTC CAMEO. All right, so this week, I decided this is actually the drink that kind of started it all, because whenever we first started doing this, just me and the boys, we really just drank whiskey, and I was like, I needed a little bit softer. And so what I did is we were actually drinking Jameson, but I kind of like this particular cocktail with rye whiskey. And this is actually called like an American or a Kentucky Mule. But I call it the Basic Diva or Diva Ya Basic. Either. So basically, you take your mule glass. It's a mug. It's copper. I polished it with ketchup. And then you add an ounce and a half of your favorite rye whiskey. Do you hear the dog is crunching on one of the ice cubes? It's all on the ground. Because that's how I treat my puppies. Nothing but the best.
Is this the dog that snuck out during the storm yesterday?
Yeah, she's kind of in timeout right now.
Oh.
She's a little bit in trouble, aren't you, Rizzo? All right. And then on top of that, now typically whenever you're drinking your basic Diva, you just add ginger ale, Canada Dry, as Brandon was drinking a couple episodes ago. But the actual thing calls for an actual ginger beer. This one, ladies and gentlemen, is a Lone Star ginger beer.
Oh.
Nice.
Oh, the Lone Star. They make quite a few stuff. Vodka, gin. I frequent them.
And you add that to your mule glass.
He's got that pour down.
Yeah, he does.
And, Specs did not have real limes. I'm a little bit disappointed. But it says on this packaging that this is 100% real. Not necessarily real juice, but real. So
real green.
Real green. Actually, it would kind of scare me if it was green. And that's a Diva Ya Basic.
Nice.
That actually sounds really good. I would drink that.
I would too.
Definitely.
I'm out of ginger beer, but I would make one right now.
All right, this week.
All right, we're going on to our next portion, which is the Roger Pine breakdown. So Dana, feel free to pull it up anytime, and I'll just preface everyone by saying that Roger said last week was too easy. He said Into the Woods was too easy, which was the first.
He failed last week.
Yeah, last week we put him on the spot with Jared Hansen. But I wanted to stay in the Sondheim realm, and so this time I gave him Merrily We Roll Along.
All right,
nice.
Here we go.
Merrily We Roll Along. I've never even heard of that show, so I'm going with it's a poor man's ripoff of Carousel. Like there's some kind of showman coming to town. Maybe it's a ripoff of Music Man. I don't know, but it sounds down market. Whatever it is, it sounds like they didn't work too hard on putting that show together because it has a uninspiring title. Merrily We Roll Along.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic.
Not be more wrong. And I'm not going to lie, when Randy hearing Roger compare Merrily We Roll Along to Carousel, he is literally rolling in his grave right now. Merrily is a Sondheim show about three best friends who meet in college, and it goes through their lives where, based on all their careers and their relationships, they end up falling apart and not being friends anymore. But the really cool thing about Merrily We Roll Along is it starts at the end of the story. So it starts at the end of the story when the two guys are not speaking, and then the girl who's part of their relationship is basically done with them. And then they slowly go backwards So it ends on this beautiful song of like hope and friendship, and you know, it's our time. We'll bring it in. Everything's going to be awesome. But then when you think about it, it's really sad because you know they don't end up together. But it's a really beautiful show. There's a great documentary about the making of that original show because Marilee is also a notorious Broadway bomb, huge Broadway bomb. So that's really sad, but also it's a great show, and I'm sorry that Roger didn't know about it.
I'm not.
I'm losing confidence in the in Pine there. So yeah.
I'm gonna quickly go into the next segment really quick, which you guys do not know about. I'm gonna share my screen. Oh no, you gotta let me share the screen.
Working on it.
Or Dana.
Yeah, don't blame me.
Oh, perfect. So you guys all share Miss Cynthia Bradford, yes, as your wife.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
She has a message.
Hi guys, it's Donna. It's so good to be here.
Is this supposed to be a video?
Yeah, is it not?
Really proud.
Yeah, we don't see it.
Dads. It was so fun sharing the stage with you and Mama
Are y'all not
Mia
seeing it
and
at all?
the bond
No.
that you guys formed on stage, and I think
Well, hell, we're gonna have to edit that later. It's playing on my end. Oh my gosh, you're kidding me.
Make sure you're sharing the right screen. It gives you lots of options whenever you do share screen.
Oh,
And check the box that says
There you go.
share computer audio. Oh, okay.
is it working?
Mm-hmm.
I see it.
that's why Adrian asked me to make this little video because, you know, you all
Can y'all hear it now?
playing Sophie's dad in Mamma Mia, but you were also all kind of playing my love interest on stage. And I like to think that that's what brought you guys together. But she asked a really cool question. She asked who my favorite on stage love interest was. And I have to tell you, that was a no-brainer. Immediately, I knew who it was. I remembered the kiss. I remembered the chemistry on stage. And Cameron Moser, hands down, favorite on stage love interest. So favorite. The chemistry was so there. Our show 9 to 5 didn't even have a kiss written in it. And Randy, the director, just saw that chemistry. I mean, Cameron could have chemistry with a board. That's how good he is at being a love interest. But he just oozed. Just oozed that charm and that, that just magnetism and passion. And man, so yeah, we didn't even have a kiss written in the show, and we were filming the commercial, and I don't think they told me. I was shocked. We're filming the commercial and they told Cameron to just plant one on me, and it was amazing. The chemistry was through the roof. We did probably I remember exactly how many takes we did. We did 14. But then it was such a great kiss that Randy put it in the show. And it was so memorable that Cameron occasionally would post on my Facebook wall about that kiss, and especially about the lipstick, which I have to say, because of that kiss, I kept the lipstick. I don't even know if they make this anymore. So here it is, Cameron. I think he's a guest on your show tonight, but this is Wet and Wild, and it looks pink, but it read red on the stage. It looked red on the stage, but this is what I would put on every night right before we'd kiss. And so just in honor of him being your guest tonight and him being my favorite love interest on stage. Very good. So Cameron, if you're watching this, if you need practice, if you need help, reading lines, practicing chemistry, I am here. I'm available, happy to help. Hands down, like I said, it was a no-brainer. Best love interest of all time on stage. Sorry, Diva Dads. You guys are great too, but no one can compare to Cameron Moser. Have a good show, guys.
Wow.
That was fantastic.
So I have a question for Adrian and Rodney. Is that technically then a diva burn for Dana, since they shared a kiss?
I think it's a diva burn for all of you.
Oh man.
But that was how I needed you guys to know that Cameron isn't just our next guest, but you guys all shared something in common, and that was Cynthia.
Amazing.
All right, let's bring him in. Yay!
Howdy, Cameron.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're great. They just watched Cynthia's short video, which Cameron saw ahead of time, guys. Sorry to keep that from you.
Was so cute. I love Cynthia.
Anything you want to add to it?
That was a great time in my life. I actually don't remember the commercial, but I do remember like every scene that I had with her and how much fun it was for her to pretend not to be interested.
The only reason I remember the commercial is because my wig wasn't in yet. And so I had this curly blonde monstrosity dead animal on my head for the commercial and the photo shoot. Super embarrassing. Thanks. Awesome. Before we start asking questions, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about who you are?
Oh, God. Sure. My name's Cameron Moser. Let's see, I was at the theater company. I think my first show was in 2009, and then it was probably 4 or 5 years, the next 4 or 5 years that I did shows. And then I decided to move to New York City.
Yay.
And that's where I currently am right now, the heart of Manhattan. And I don't know what else to say about myself. Oh, I moved up to the city to go to Circle in the Square Theater School, which I had actually heard about from another theater company alum who also went to the same school. Yeah, I graduated from that about 5 years ago. And since then, just been living in the city, living the dream, as they say.
Awesome. Wonderful.
Yeah.
We're so happy to have you here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
All right, Mike, go for it.
Alrighty, Cameron, first question of the night is from fellow TTC dad and friend of the podcast, of course, Roger Pine. Coming from community theater, what has surprised you the most about navigating the professional theater world?
I don't know if it's a surprise, but just like, I think something I had to realize was how really good everyone is. Like, everyone's good. If you think you're good, like, so do the next 100 people, which is a great thing because like you get to see everybody's talents, like how everyone's such a great storyteller when they perform, when they sing, when they dance, when like you get to see where their passion lies, which is similar to the theater company because a lot of people do it because they like it and they like being there. And on this one, you just get to see it so much more. So probably that was the biggest realization that I had about coming here. Sure, we'll let that be the answer.
Okay, I'm asking a follow-up question based on a conversation that you and I had a few years after you moved up there. You sent me a message that basically talked about my dance auditions and how your perspective on my dance auditions changed once you were auditioning in New York.
I don't remember that conversation.
I'll tell you what it was, because you told me, you know what? I used to think your dance auditions were hard.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, okay. Because, okay, and I'm not a dancer. If I'm not a dancer, I'm just not. I've accepted it. I'm what I guess people in the industry would call like a strong mover. But I've been to a couple dance calls, and let me tell you, if you're not a dancer and you want to be humbled real quick and you want to embarrass yourself, come to a New York City dance call. 50 other great dancers.
Yes, so, how do you think y'all would do?
Oh,
jeez, no.
Lamb to the slaughter.
I don't even know that I could be considered a mover, let alone a great mover. So terrible. I'll leave a burn myself on that. Yeah. But speaking of that, so something we realized is that you were in Rocky Theater Company's production of Rocky Horror Picture Show 1 and 2. Mike was in Rocky 3, and Mike, Rodney, and myself were in Rocky 4. So we have that kind of connection within doing the same shows there. And one of the phantoms in several shows, Miss Taylor Christensen, has this question for you. What is your favorite Rocky memory? Uh-oh.
So many. Oh God, there's so many though. And Adrienne was there for all of them, so she knows. I'll say I have too many favorite memories from those shows. But I will say, regardless of who is playing Frankenfurter, they're always great in the role. They're always really good, and they're always great to be on stage with. But it's, as we all know, it gets really hot on that stage. And when you're moving around a lot and you don't get a chance to like leave the stage and go sit in front of a giant fan for 10 minutes, you start to build up some sweat. And the big, like, what's the rating on this? Because I'm going to say the big orgy scene.
The floor show.
There we go, the floor show.
Same.
Like when, and I'm not sure how that y'all did it for 3 and 4, but like we always had to kind of come around Brad, Janet, Columbia, and Rocky all had to like get around Frankenfurter, and just like this like flower rubbing massage sensuality thing, which is great to look at. But when you're actually having to do it and you're like sweating because you all just danced in heels and you got like a feather boa that keeps sticking to everybody's body, it's just like it's the greatest thing to try to figure out how to look like you are like sensually caressing somebody and also not touching their sweaty body at all. And like it's like I sweat a lot on stage, so I understand it just can't be helped, but it's just real inconvenient when that's your choreography.
But I love how this is your favorite memory.
It's the most like memorable memory I think I have. Because anytime I think of that show, I just think of like feather boas and sweat.
That's not bad.
Rocky Horror in a nutshell. So.
Yes, I agree.
So Cameron, what part did you play in Rocky?
Oh, I was Brad Majors.
Nice.
That's all. Sorry.
Okay, he kind of is. Like, I agreed with the audience half the time.
Did that ever hurt your feelings, the amount of times that people yelled that word at you? Does it ever bother you?
No, it doesn't, because it's almost like, yay, Brad has a shout out. Because between the stage version and the movie version, like, a lot of Brad's stuff isn't in the movie, so he doesn't have as many call outs as Janet does. And there's a lot more times that they call her like a slut and other things. So like anytime I got something, I was like, yay, attention.
Like a true actor. I love that.
I know. So I never minded it at all. When it happened, I was like, that's me.
I'm an asshole. All right, who's next?
All righty. Cameron, so Michelle Campbell Green has a question for you. She says, what is your favorite character to play in Spamalot? We heard from your bio that you played multiple characters in Spamalot. So what is your favorite character?
Wait, my favorite character that I played?
That you played in Spamalot, yes.
I mean, Prince Herbert. I got to go on stage and just be a complete goon for like 30 minutes. And I got one of the more fun dance numbers that there was.
His name is Lancelot.
It was the greatest. It really was. The evolution of that dance number, it was just...
That was amazing.
It was glorious. But then like, it's so funny and it's so well written that it's just like, all right, let's have some fun. And he's even still like a role that I try to play now.
Aw.
That if I see auditions for Spamalot, I always try to go and I'm like, how can I get to be Herbert? Because it's too much fun.
Well, and this is a random side note. My mom asked this question. I wasn't going to ask it, but this is a great point because my mom wanted to know if you'd ever auditioned for, if you'd ever wanted a role but didn't get it. And Spamalot is the answer.
Yeah. There were many roles at the theater company that I wanted that I didn't get.
But leave it to my mom to ask about the negative. So
I'm right there with her. It's fine. No, it always felt like, I think every show I auditioned for, I didn't get the part that I wanted, which was a great lesson to learn because then I found another part that was much more suited for me that I was better at. Like Spamalot, I wanted to be Sir Robin because I wanted the big Broadway number that he has. And because me and my friends in junior high were obsessed with Monty Python and the Holy Grail, we watched it constantly, and I learned how to do Prince Herbert's voice. And so I read for Sir Robin, and it was great. And I was like, awesome, got it. And then Randy was like, hey, why don't you read for this? We'll see what happens. And then on the first go round, it's just 7th grade came back, the voice came out perfectly. And it's like, well, I'm making everyone laugh after one line, so I guess this is what I'm getting.
But then in the end, you didn't just get the one big Broadway number. You got to do all the numbers.
I know, I still got to be in the number and then like 3 others.
Yes.
No. But I will say my favorite story with that, a side note, because I get to ramble, is Into the Woods, which was I consider my first like actual role at the theater company. I knew nothing about the show. Nothing going into it.
Just like Roger.
Yeah, exactly like Roger. I knew there were like fairy tales. There was like Cinderella and like Jack and the Beanstalk, and then a couple like Baker and like a witch. So I was like, okay, well I know Jack. I listened to his song. I auditioned for it, and the next day, somebody texted me because they had seen the cast list, and they're like, "Congratulations, Mr. Baker." And I vividly remember sitting in my chemistry class at A&M being like so disappointed. I was like, oh, fine. I mean, like, I guess I'm happy to be on the show. So, and that was at like 11 in the morning. So I went all day just being like a little annoyed by it, but like happy to be in the show. And that's really where I met Michelle, because she was the baker's wife. And she was like, hey, husband. And then we did the read-through for it. Again, I know nothing about this show. We do the read-through, and it's like 20 minutes in, and I'm still waiting for when I get to leave the stage. Because I haven't left the stage yet. And it's like, somebody else was doing their part, and I just like skipped ahead 10 pages and was like, oh, this is so much better. And Jack, I'm on stage this entire time. And so the longest way ever to answer your question. But it was a great lesson. It was a great lesson that I learned, because it's the part you want necessarily is not the one that you're the best at, which was a really nice thing to learn so early on.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Alrighty, so this next question comes from Ultimate Dad Joke Generator, David Manuel. Did you know much about the drowsy chaperone when you auditioned? And what was it like to play man in the chair?
What did I know? I don't think I knew much about that show. I think I knew the gist of it. And because there's like not much on the show unless you just watch the show, like watch a bootleg of it. But I think I knew the idea of the show. And so it's like, I want man in chair. This is probably the one time I got the part that I wanted.
And you can describe, dads, do y'all know about the drowsy chaperone and what makes it special? So Cameron, tell them a little bit about it.
So the show it's kind of like a love letter to classical musicals on stage. It's about this guy who is like afraid of the outside world. He lives by himself. He And I guess whenever he gets like lonely, he puts on these records that he has of old musicals like Sound of Music and Miss Saigon and like King and I and like all these older things. And throughout the whole show, the musical that he is listening to, called The Drowsy Chaperone, comes alive in his apartment. And he like talks to the audience directly as if they're like, it's like he's showing them this movie for the first time. He's like sitting there with them. He's like, now watch this part. Like, oh no, this guy, he's really cool. He used to be a real big time actor, did like toothpaste commercials, got eaten by a bunch of poodles, but don't think about that during this number. and it's like, it's very much a show where he's on stage the entire time and he's just talking to the audience about this thing that he really loves, which is like musical theater and all these old soundtracks. So that's kind of like the gist of the show. And he's just a really fun character to play. It's such a witty show. It's so funny. But that was one that I actually wanted. And I think I did a little bit of practicing before auditions. And so like before callbacks, I didn't look at the script. I just kind of came up with who I thought the character would be and how he would act just a little bit. So
it was beautiful. I mean, that's one of my favorite shows that I've ever seen the theater company do. And in fact, we posted, your bio and your pictures on the theater company page today. Mm-hmm. And a woman named Becky Shaw didn't have a question for you. She just wanted to say, I remember him in The Drowsy Chaperone, and it was one of my favorite shows ever.
Oh, that's
awesome.
Yeah.
And
Rodney, I think, go ahead.
I was going to say, it was more fun with like the rest of the cast in there, because as much as like, yes, I was on stage a lot of time I just sat back and just watched them do their thing. I was like, all right, I'll peace out for a couple of pages while I get to watch this amazing show. So many times.
Hell of a cast.
It was
hell of a cast.
What year was that, Adrian?
Everything was 10 years ago.
Everything was.
I'll look it up. It was beautiful, though. It was Michelle and Deborah. Deborah played Janet. We had a brand new guy play the fiance, Wyatt. Jimmy was in it. Stacy was the chaperone. Jean Woodell. Rich Bradford was in it. It was Becky Braden. It was amazing.
Adrian choreographed it.
Yeah.
So good. And it was one I didn't have to sing in, which was really great.
Oh, you sang just like a little bit.
It was a little sad, like 2-line thing of loneliness.
But that's one of the magic shows that when our audience, because our audience in Bryan College Station is very fickle. And if it's a show that they haven't heard of, they're very hesitant. And Drowsy Chaperone is always this perfect example of just trust us, even if you've never heard of the show. And that's the show that surprised so many people because it's beautiful and poignant and hilarious. There's a point in the show where the record scratches, and so the cast and they do it on stage while he goes and fixes the record, and then the song goes on, and that's the big Act 1 finale. And it's brilliantly written.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I gotta see that.
Rod, I think it's you.
Oh yeah, I stole one. So Adrian Rao wants to know, what's your favorite memory from your time at TTC?
Oh, Lord. My favorite memory there's so many.
I know.
Which is weird. I feel like I actually wasn't there that long, but I have so many good memories of being there. Oh my goodness.
Okay, so we talked Spam a lot. We talked Drowsy Chaperone.
We did. I can talk my first, not necessarily my favorite, but a memorable memory is my first audition. The very first night that I was in the theater company, which you've heard this before, Adrian.
Oh no.
But okay, it's one of my favorites. So I showed up to the theater company to audition for Guys and Dolls. And again, a show I don't know anything about. I don't know anything about the theater company. I don't know what decorum is. So I was just like, I have to sing a song, go up in front of people. All right, let's put ourselves out there. And it was like, I didn't know a single soul in the audience. Everybody was over here talking to each other. People were over here talking to each other. Randy and Adrian were in the front. auditioning everyone. So I like meagerly walk up there. I'm like, hi, my name's Cameron. And I like overshot my first one because it's Guys and Dolls. And so I sang a song from Moulin Rouge because those go together. And no sheet music. This was well before they forced you to have sheet music. So I won in that area. And just like sang Come What May. And I remember looking up and seeing like the theater lights and then being like really nervous in the middle of it. And I like glanced down and saw Adrian's face in the front row with her like little notebook, all sitting there just like smiling up at me, like encouragingly. And I was like, okay, well, I'll keep going. And then like powered through and finished the song. And then like quickly walked off the stage and like felt the blood then continue to go through my body. And then I ended up being in the ensemble for the show and had a lot of fun, made a lot of friends that show. And so that's like at least the most memorable memory I have of the theater and my time there. Not necessarily my favorite, but one of my most memorable.
Well, and the reason I've heard that story is, and Dana, I think you've watched it. Our friends James and Cynthia put together a documentary about Randy Wilson's life from BCS to Broadway and back. And when they actually went up to New York to interview a lot of theater company veterans, and Cameron was one of them. And I got to see like a rough cut. Maybe they sent it to me a little bit ahead of time. And I knew Cameron had, been part of the interview, but obviously this is not my story, like at all. But I didn't know that he told that story in the interview and it got included in the documentary. And I just was so caught off guard and I immediately cried a lot and then sent you a text with a lot of profanities because I was like, why did you warn me? I wasn't ready for that.
I had no idea what she was talking about. So I was just like, I'm sorry I did something. Sorry you felt.
Yeah, I do the same thing with her. I have no idea how I screwed up, but I'm sorry.
That's crazy.
Oh, man. So on favorites, we'll stick with that theme. One Miss Terry Dobson, again, has a question about who your favorite female leads might have been at TTC.
Cameron knows my mother, so he knows that she does this.
Is she fishing a little bit?
No. She's going to expect him to say Cynthia or someone not me.
Well, I guess, I'm trying to think like who my co-leads have been or co-stars have been.
Jonathan Moore.
Yes, Jonathan Moore.
Sir Lancelot.
I don't actually know. I watched last week's, and so I saw you ask Roger this. And so I thought about what my answer would be. And I honestly don't know because each one is like, I think Michelle Campbell Green was probably my first. And like, that was such a great, like, co-star to have, especially the first time I'm like in a role of this size. First stage kiss, and like she was just such a great person to be with for that. And then Deborah,
resident gymnast.
Yeah, our resident gymnast. Like I did Rocky Horror with her, and she was such a great Janet to like play around with. And then Cynthia was so much fun to just really just press her buttons because she's like normally so reserved, and then even on stage, she was playing a character who was a little bit more reserved. And I was just like, all right, let's poke the buttons. So I really don't know who my favorite co-lead would be. Or female lead, sorry. Co-lead. Yeah, I really don't. I can't answer that at all. I honestly don't have one.
Some great material.
I know it's a cop-out, and I hate it, but I honestly don't know.
Fine, we do it all the time.
What, poke the bear, Cynthia? Yes.
Yeah, and cop out.
Yes.
All right, Dana,
Yeah. So we are. I did just watch the documentary BCS to Broadway and Back, and it was so incredible to see not just Randy's story, but you guys that were interviewed, and how TTC moved you in a way that caused you to do this for real, you know, and that's inspiring. But I would assume that you were faced with some challenges. So I think for us, what was kind of the hardest thing to get used to when you did make that leap and left here to live in NYC?
Winter.
First winter, especially. Good Lord. Snow for like 7 months straight. The hardest thing in moving to, and I don't know. It's kind of, I guess it's probably just that you're doing what you love, but you're taking kind of this, I guess, like a safety net out. Because I mean, at the theater company, it's like everyone's so welcoming, and it's kind of like you will be involved in this production if you want to be, whereas you're here and you're constantly like jumping through hoops and trying to be like, look, I can be in your show, and you're also competing against like thousands of other people. So I think probably the hardest thing is like having this, I guess, the safety net in the sense of the community. I'll say that, yes. Like the support that comes from other people, because there's always that rehearsal where you just think you're awful. And it's like, why am I on stage? These people are paying. But you have like your co-stars and like your friends in the theater that are like, no, you're doing great. Like that was fine. What are you worried about? Stop it. And then up here, you don't get that. You go into an audition and they're like, thank you, bye. And you're like, but was I good? So I think that's probably the hardest thing, is that support that I had, not that built up, but like that I had been around for so long, was kind of gone, or it just wasn't as immediate as it had been.
Well, you mentioned safety net in the community, but can you tell us a little bit about the TTC community that's in New York, which is, we were talking about it a little bit before we started filming, but can you tell us a little bit about the people that you met here that are very much a part of your life in New York? And who forces you to hang out with them?
No, that was kind of the fun thing. It was like, once I moved up here, I didn't know anybody in the city. I didn't know them very well, but then like after I moved, a lot of theater company came up here, and it was like, oh, yay, welcome. Let us go this way and like explore the city together. And so it was really nice for like Katie and Lindsay.
Both of them were on last week's episode in Dads After Dark.
Oh, yes. Like they moved up here too, and it was like, this is still kind of like this loving like support that's right here that I was missing, and that was really nice once I got out of school, that I could talk to them and like get their experiences. And Lindsay and I actually did some extra work together for like a day that we happened on. I don't think either of us planned it, but we just like showed up and we were like, you! And it was really great because she had been doing it for so long and I didn't. It was my first day ever being an extra on a TV show. So I didn't know what I was doing. And she was just like, no, this and this and this. And like, no, this is how that happens. No, that's not for us. We stay over here. And like, she just kind of shepherded me around. So it was really nice to have that connection throughout. And then Katie is great because she makes me leave my apartment.
She is the social coordinator.
She really is. She's like, hey, we're doing it. I'm like, well, if Katie's texting me to meet her here, I have to go. But yeah, so that's kind of like how the theater has followed me to the city and like still been able to provide a little support when I need it.
Well, and there is one time I was there a few years ago, we had brunch and Monty Misano came to join us for brunch. And then we were walking you guys home. This is in your old apartment. And you two goofballs did not know that you were literally living across the street from each other. These two Aggie Theater Company boys were living in buildings across the street, and they did not know.
Literally across the street.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But like our schedules were so different. I never saw him leave the apartment. I never saw him at the subway station. I don't think I was sure that he lived in the city. But that's the great thing about this city is there's so many people, yet it's such a small, tiny world that it's just mind-blowing.
Nice.
All right, Rodney.
All right. Terry Dobson wants to know what musical theater songs stick with you the most.
What song sticks with me the most?
Yep.
Oh, man. That's hard. That's a hard one.
It's my mom.
Which one were you singing today?
Oh. I don't even know what I was singing today. I forget every time I go back afterwards. I think one that sticks with me is probably always Into the Woods. Something from Into the Woods is always in my head at some point. Whether it's like never any song that I guess, what is that song we sang? No One Is Alone.
No One Is Alone.
That one. Just a great song.
That's one of my
Give us a
favorites.
few bars of that right quick.
Oh, Lord. I'm sorry, Cinderella starts that song.
You would have to go back to, wait a second, who was your favorite on stage, please? I'm just kidding.
We spent like 2 seconds on stage together.
I think it would have to be your finger puppet from Spelling Bee. I feel like that's what you really wanted to say.
That's
your favorite on stage partner.
It kind of is.
That and your
I'll
favorite.
agree with that. Oh, that's a song that's followed me. Okay, that's an actual answer. The song that I sang as Leaf Coney Bear in 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, which is I'm Not That Smart, has followed me through my entire life. I actually took like a musical theater class in the fall with like these wonderful teachers and like casting directors, and that was one of my songs that it's just like old hat. I like hadn't touched it for a few years, and they were like, "What have you seen this?" And I was like, "All right," and then just came out as if I had been like rehearsing it all week. So that is a song that follows me. Okay, I get to invest it eventually.
So I have a couple of questions for one of our favorite people, Mary Otto. First off, we're just going to get this out of the way. How much do you miss her?
So much. I love Mary. I miss her.
She misses you too. But she would like to know, what is the hardest role you've ever played vocally?
It's at the theater company.
Chess, maybe?
I feel like 9 to 5 actually.
Yeah.
Because the like tenor line in the ensemble just goes up to some notes because it can. Why not? And like I remember like the music rehearsals for that, we'd be singing the line and like I was struggling a bit and I was like, all right, this is hard to sustain for an entire song and we got to dance to it. Damn. But then by the time the show happened and we were performing it, it was a lot easier. But that's the only one I really remember thinking that vocally it was the hardest. It took a lot of effort to like make sure it was right.
The show was athletic.
It really was.
Mary would also like to know, do you prefer a comedic or a serious role?
Oh. I think if I had to choose, I would choose, comedy is always my default. Like always, it's my default. But I really do like being more serious and I guess things that don't have punchlines in them. Like doing Prince Herbert and like being all comedic that way is always a blast. And it's always fun to make people laugh. And then it's also fun to like make people cry. And so like doing something a bit more serious is still really fun. So I think if I had to choose right now, it'd probably be something more dramatic, serious, emotional, make the people feel.
All right, dads, do y'all have any other questions before we start going into our next bits?
I guess if there's one role, these kind of questions always kind of come out in interviews, but I really find it interesting, the swath of roles that people would like to play someday. Very different answers from many, many people. So what would be like your idea of an iconic role that you would like to play? Or maybe you've already played it, but have you thought about, I'm sure you've thought of that. So what would you
I think it's always my go-to answer because I really would love to get a shot at it. If I could pick any role in any musical theater, I would pick Mrs. Lovett.
Oh,
like she's so much fun. Her songs are so fun to sing. She can be played so many different ways. It'd be so much fun to get a shot at. But if I had to think like one that I would actually be cast in, I'd probably pick Bobby in Company, which is just he seems so fun, so complex, so complicated, and like trying to understand him and his reasonings and everything and his feelings. So I think those would be my top two.
So one, I'm having a vision of Prince Herbert as Mrs. Lovett singing By the Sea. That just went through my head. I think it sounds great, and I would like to this immediately.
That's his dream role. It's his dream come true.
Perfect. Mike, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, so Cameron, being on the TTC stage and a professional stage, we're going to have people who watch this podcast who may have never tried out on the TTC stage. They're scared, nervous. Give your best advice. Why should they try out? What should they do? Make them feel comfortable. We want newcomers all the time at TTC.
Why you should audition? Because it's okay. Why you should just do a show and audition in general is because it's so much fun. There's so much for you to do. There's so many cool people. And everyone's so encouraging, and like they all want to see you succeed. And like it's never, for me, it was like never a stressful thing. It was just like, I wanted to do the show. This was the thing I had to do to get into it. But it's just everyone's there for you. Everyone wants to see you do well. Everyone's there for you even if something happens to go wrong, like a note is not as great as you think, if you think the note isn't that great, the audience might think it's fine. Like don't get in your head about it. It's just go up, have fun, because that's all it is at the end of the day. Just having fun. Because the rest of our lives are so stressful. We need something that's fun.
Randy always said that too. He always said, don't worry about how it sounds in your head. It always sounds better outside of your head.
It really does. I agree with that. 100%.
Well, we're going to wrap up the interview portion. Cameron, you are free to give some advice, but our next segment is Dear Daddy, where I have questions. We're just going to do one question today for our fatherly figures from our young people at the theater company. Are you ready? Okay.
Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Dear
Daddy, what's the best cell phone plan to get on? Sincerely, 27 and still on my parents.
Oh my God, the dream.
Oh my gosh. Well, now that Sprint has merged with T-Mobile, that's some fantastic coverage and a big network. But they just merged, so there's probably going to be some pricing differences. I don't know. Verizon has been a savior for me when I was living out in the boonies and didn't have any cell phone coverage with Sprint. Verizon had coverage, so I don't know. I mean, do you want unlimited? And that's a mess. What kind of question is that? I'm trying.
I think they should just use. You're probably going to be doing some shady stuff, so burner phones.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
considering that the question came from Taylor Christensen, you're probably not wrong.
Burner phones. Taylor.
Well, and the marketing person in me would say,
Oh, Jesus.
we'll promote whichever company wants to cover the cost of our podcast. Wink, wink.
That is a point.
Cricket Mobile? Am I calling Cricket Mobile? All right, Dana, TTC Photo.
TTC Photo of the Week. So every week we pull up the site randomly and scroll down, and we have a rotating photo for the theater company's website. Here is Tuck Everlasting. Performance dates will be announced soon. And oh my goodness, no way.
Yay!
Oh,
Awesome.
Oh my gosh, Armene Davis in Fiddler on the Roof.
yes.
This was a dream role for her, and she was brilliant. Oh my gosh, this whole show was so beautiful and brilliant. And I'm so glad that this picture came up because MGM it's MGM. They just announced that Fiddler on the Roof is actually going to be made, and the musical version is going to be put in a movie again, directed by Tommy Kail, who obviously directed Hamilton. So I think it's in good hands. But Armene is one of just the most special, kindest human beings that has ever been on the theater company stage. And she was heartbreaking in this role. This was when she was singing The Home I Love, Goodbye to the Home I Love. Is that what the song is, Mike?
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was.
Guy. Yeah. He was the bad guy in this show. But just really quick, something about Armene is, and also reference to last week's episode guest Roger Pine. Roger Pine, at the end of most of his shows, when the show wrapped up, he would do this thing called the Roger Pine Awards, and he would give people different awards, MVP, most improved or whatever. And then there were some very specific awards. One of them was the Cynthia Bradford Physical Comedy Award that would always go to somebody who did something really goofy. But the other award that Roger did was the Armene Davis Kindness Award, or the Nicest Award, because she is genuinely just one of the kindest human beings that has ever walked this earth. And that award would almost always go to her because no one could beat her. But then when she wasn't in shows, they would try to find someone close to represent Armene Davis and her genuine kindness. I miss her a lot.
Awesome.
Oh, good. That one's special.
That was incredible.
Yay.
Can I share an Armene story? Because I've never been in a show with her, and I don't know what show that she had. I don't even remember which show it was because we all three were kind of in that string of run of several months in a row of shows. But Hannah Ferguson said, "Hey, I want you to meet one of my friends. She used to come to the theater. She used to be at the theater. She lives in Florida now, Armene." And I was like, "Oh, I've heard your name. Your reputation precedes you." And she was like, "Oh my God." And just from hearing her voice, there was this warmth and I was just like, "Oh gosh, can I have another theater daughter that really I haven't been in a show with?" She was so amazing and instantly tags me in a Facebook because we talked about Star Wars and she's a huge Star Wars fan if y'all didn't know.
Are you? Have you ever seen those shows, Dana?
What shows? Star Wars?
Star Wars, yeah.
Those shows.
Do you not see my room? Do I need to show you the? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, Armene. She's amazing.
Do you guys remember one of the first conversations before we started the web series, but when we were just talking about different roles and roles that I had wanted to play, and I told you the story about this wonderful actress who took on this role that I had really looked forward to, and then it just completely blew my brain? That was Armene. Armene playing Fosca in Passion, and she was incredible.
Wow, that's cool.
Amazing.
Well, from one wonderful person to another, this is Jennifer Reilly's fun fact of the week is back this week. So take it away, Jennifer.
Yep, we got it. Jennifer Reilly.
Hi there, Diva Dads. I hope y'all are having a wonderful week. And congratulations on episode number 4. So the fun fact for this week is brought on behalf of my friend here. This is Narwhalter the Narwhal. And the fact comes about horn on the top of a narwhal's head, which is actually not a horn at all. It's a tooth. So male narwhals grow a tooth that comes out of the upper jawbone. It is very long and it is straight, and it can grow between 6 to 10 feet in length, and it grows in a counterclockwise spiral. So there you go. A fact that I definitely did not know until recently, and I hope is a new and interesting fact to all the viewers out there. I hope everybody is having the best week they can, and I'm wishing everyone a restful or productive weekend, whichever you prefer. I look forward to this week's episode, Diva Dads, and to speaking with y'all soon. Have a good weekend. Bye.
She is so amazing.
Whenever I see a narwhal, I just think of Elf and the puffin saying, "Bye, buddy.
Bye, buddy."
Find you dead." That's it. Okay, so there's two things that we have to do before we wrap this up. One of them, and I'm going to let Rodney do it because he's the one that always remembers to.
Yeah, Cameron. So we task each guest in helping us prep our show for next week. So who do you think we need to reach out to and catch up with, and have on our show? So who's our next guest? Oh, and make it as hard for Adrian as possible.
Oh my God.
It's hard.
No, I'm just kidding. Who do you want to see the most?
I don't. I would say, because I feel like I don't know people, but I do. I would say, why not Michelle Campbell Green?
Yay.
One of my, for a person who's always, I feel, involved in a show that I was involved in some aspect. I feel like she's led a pretty good life at theater company and then beyond with every high school theater that she has worked at and the amazing shows that she's put on. So I would say she would be a good one.
Okay, but is Deborah invited too?
I mean, if she's not busy.
I'm really glad this is the other way around because Deborah would not be offended by this, but if you went the other way around and invited Deborah and then they said, "What about Michelle?" and you were like, "Meh." Like,
I love Deborah, but
you'd be a dead man.
But Michelle.
We will check in with Michelle and Deborah next week, who is not a total stranger to the Diva Dads because she directed Mike Kilgore in Rock of Ages.
Nice.
Yay!
Bourbon room.
Perfect.
Stacey Jackson might just show up next week, folks. Just let me know.
Point.
You let me know and I'll find you that wig, dude.
Oh, let's do it. I'm on.
Okay, one more thing. Tomorrow, guys, is Dana's birthday.
Oh, Lord.
Yay!
Happy birthday, Dana!
Happy birthday!
Thanks. You know, the older you get, the least excitement you could possibly have happens.
That was the saddest birthday exchange I've ever seen.
Thank you.
You can be however old you want to be.
Yes.
All right, Dana. Cheers to Dana.
Cheers to Dana.
Cameron.
Happy birthday.
Dana, wrap it up.
All right, so we'll try to get this show out to you guys tomorrow on Friday, as we always do, no matter
It is Dana's birthday on Friday.
And it's my birthday, so that's what I'll be doing is post on this show. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay after every Thursday night's recording of the show. Don't forget, we have Divas Dads After Dark. So thank you guys again. Cameron, thank you so much. We had a great time with you. Hope you enjoyed your time on our show.
I did. Thank you, guys.
Awesome.
It was fun.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You know the Diva Dads, they got the cool one. The Diva Dads, they know just what to say because the Diva Dads.